Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to the Disciplinary Literacy Instructions Workshop for Math Educators. My name is Sherry Perry, and I am excited to be here with you this afternoon. Before I get started, I wanted to show you I want you to take a look at this quick cartoon clip, and I want to get your opinion of what you think. When I first saw this cartoon, I actually shared it with my spouse and we just laughed because it's the great example of what happens in my math classroom on a consistent basis. After teaching all day and the next day you come back and you're ready to start your lesson, hopefully pick up where maybe you left off, and something like this just happens, and it reads, just a darn minute. Yesterday you said that x equals 2. It's just the most amazing thing because really that's just sometimes how our students think. But with disciplinary literacy instruction, sometimes we can now move from that question mark in our students' mind and really move them to the aha moment of, I get it, I understand, I'm beginning to think like a mathematician. So when I think of disciplinary literacy, I want to start by saying what it is not. It is not you having to come in and teach like an English teacher, having to teach students to read, how to teach them to write. But what it more specifically is, disciplinary literacy is moving to the possible. It is possible, getting our students to critically think, getting our students to think like mathematicians, getting our students to understand text in the area like a mathematician, getting our students to even write and respond to questions like a mathematician. So when I think about disciplinary literacy instructions, I think about the what and the why of what it is. So the what of disciplinary literacy instruction really means that it is aiming to get our students to think like an expert, not to be an expert, to think like an expert, to be able to read, to be able to write, to be able to think, and even to be able to communicate within their specific discipline. And so today our workshop is about math, so we want to get our students to begin to think like mathematicians, to read like mathematicians, to communicate, and to be able to be involved in their learning in the regards like a mathematician. So characteristics of a disciplinary literary instruction, again, it's about really getting deeper into your content, getting deeper into your text, specializing and beginning to change your mindset, beginning to think about the habits of a mathematician or the habits of doing math, those critical thinking skills, and then being able to pull out some evidence-based argument, critiquing, and then being able to defend your responses, and being able to reason through the steps and procedures that you may have used to solve that problem, getting to that point of really being able to communicate and share. And then so a lot of times we ask, why do I even need to do this? Why can't I just teach the standard algorithm? Why can't I just go through the steps? Because that's what the kids really need to know. They need to be able to move from, basic rudimentary math to algebra, to geometry, to algebra 2, to pre-calculus. These are the steps and the procedures that they need to get to really be college ready. But what we're finding is that by the time the students have progressed through their math, there's still so many holes and so many questions gone unanswered because we haven't stopped to make the connections for them. We haven't stopped to give them those real world applications. So this is the kind of the why of disciplinary literacy, why it really matters for us to kind of slow down just a little bit and make sure they understand the content from my discipline. So the why, they're going to be acquiring skills daily, gaining more knowledge, proficiently being able to think about math in ways that we want them to think about math, being able to answer those questions of why I got my answer or why this answer is reasonable. We want to move the boring, mundane, everyday algorithm from the math classroom and really get it more engaging and motivating and inquiring and get students to begin to ask questions about the math and understanding the math and then connecting it and making connections to real world so that again the light bulb begins to go off and they got this aha moment. I got it. I know why today X equals 3. So that's the why and the what behind disciplinary literacy instruction. So during our course today, through our workshop, I really wanted it to be a lot of hands-on, kind of getting into our teachers' editions, looking at our current units of studies, looking at our current lesson plans and seeing where we are, and then how we can really begin to dive into this disciplinary leader instructions. So some of the things that I have wanted to share with you today, specifically that when we began to teach our math, we don't, again, begin to teach as if we are English teachers. We still teach as if we are mathematicians and we are expert in our field of math. But we're going to bring and add to that so that our lessons become more rich and they become more rigorous. And our practice and our instructions become more purposeful, and it really begins to get into the minds of the students. So we want to look at how can we bring in comprehension. A lot of times our students, they really don't understand how do we solve these problems. We see word problems, but we really don't understand how we began to solve them. They're always stuck for some reason when it comes to word problems. We want to get them questioning, asking questions of the author, asking questions of themselves, even moving to that more inquiry-based kind of atmosphere in our classroom. We really want them definitely to understand the vocabulary. We have to make sure that our students are able to look at key terms and understand how do I use this? How does it make sense in this content of what I am using today? And then again, just having that conversation. In math, our classrooms can be rich and lively and full of discussions about math, about proofs, about formulas, about equations, about real world applications. Again, all we have to do is bring in those questions, those be facilitators to get them to really talk about the math. And then lastly, we can write in our math classrooms. We can have them move toward the discipline of writing like a mathematician. Here's my answer. Let me explain my thinking now. Let me put down my steps in writing. The same thing that they're reading in their textbooks, we want them to be able to do that as well to show their knowledge and their understanding. So literacy skills in math is possible. It can happen. So just to briefly kind of go over the comprehension. I don't want to read these bullet points to you, but I do want to give you a second to just kind of glance through them for yourself. And how are we going to begin to enhance our student learning? So I just want to take a few minutes as I move through the slides. I'm not going to read them to you, but I want you to just read over them for yourself and really begin to internalize how you can begin to mentally incorporate this into your lesson planning. And notice, even in the second one, the questioning, if you notice, I underlined that and put that in bold, and even gave you some example questions that you could ask of your students. What are some ways to represent quantities, for example? What did you notice about this word problem? What did you notice about the outcome of your solution? Is there another way another possible answer to that same question? So comprehension and questioning. Vocabulary and accountability talk. Again, how can you use these practices to enhance student learning? And next, the writing within the discipline. And then I also listed here some examples of the writing. So in math, students can have math writing journals. They can keep learning logs. We can even provide them with writing prompts. If you look over at the literacy skills in mathematics, there's a link here. I will be sending that link to you, but it just goes over the writing process that your students can go through as they are learning and using writing within their discipline. So now what's going to happen is, how do we begin to implement this DLI in the math classroom? Because it can be done. So today we're going to look at a few strategies in which we are going to start seeing how